Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Marvelous, and I am so happy to moderate this session today. I can see many people joining in. Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and get started here in a minute. So like I said, my name is Marvelous. I am joining you here from Minneapolis, Minnesota in the US, and I am an alum from the 2017 Global Citizenship cohort. So very excited to be here. For those of you who do not know us, Global Citizenship is launching a generation of leaders with the perspective, skills, and networks to solve humanity's most urgent challenges. Each year, we recruit talented young people who represent our world's diversity. Using the formative transition into adulthood, we help them shape their values, identity, and purpose in the ways that classroom learning alone cannot. Through our virtual academy and immersive fellowship, we combine curriculum, coaching, and lived experience to help our students develop the real power skills of the 21st century: resilience, empathy, agency, and leadership in order to build a more just, equitable, and sustainable world. So that is a bit about us at Global Citizenship, and we're excited for you to be joining us here. If you haven't already done this, please feel free to add your location to your name so that we know where you're joining us from. We encourage you to have your cameras on, and there will be a Slido link in the chat for you so that you can ask your questions as we carry along. It's already in the chat, amazing. Also, feel free to practice your emojis, make sure that they're working, because there's gonna be a lot of exciting things that I'm sure will resonate with you throughout this conversation. So feel free to give us your reactions. I'm gonna do one right now because I'm very excited to be here, and I am very excited to hear what you all, the questions that you all have to share with us. So our speaker will be with us for 1 hour. If your question is selected from the Slido link, we'll call on you directly, so please make sure to have your camera on when you are called upon. And unfortunately, we will not be able to get through all the questions, but hopefully we will have some shared experiences and some similar questions, so that way we'll all hear from everybody's perspective. And at the end, we'll have a survey to fill out, so just keep watching the chat room for that. All right, I think I am good to go. So today I am so excited to be joined by Dr. Akilah Cadet. She is the founder and CEO of Change Cadet, an organizational development consulting firm, which offers a broad array of anti-racism and diversity services for companies and global brands. Dr. Cadet has 15 years of experience in managing and building successful projects, teams, and leaders in the public and private sector. She is a 2021 Forbes Next 1000 honoree and was honored as one of the Staffing Industry Analysts in 2021 Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity and Inclusion Influencers. Her work has also been featured in Forbes and the Wall Street Journal Diversity and Business newsletter. She has spent an extensive part of her career designing training materials, coaching executives, and informing systemic change to improve the workforce experience for large organizations. She lives in Oakland, California, has all the degrees you can possibly imagine, celebrates her disability, and has an incredible shoe game, and is a proud Beyoncé advocate. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Cadet. We're so happy to have you. And if you would just indulge me, how might you expand the introduction I just gave to include parts of you and your journey that are important to you, but that people don't always get to know about through your professional bio?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good bio. It's always fun to hear someone else introduce you and you're like, oh yeah, I did that. That's cool. What else would I add to it? Badass bitch, hustler, fashion icon, dismantler of white supremacy, pet parent. It's really important to me. My dog's asleep on the floor right now. He may pop in. Twin, so there's two of me in the universe, you know. Yeah, I would leave it at that.
Amazing, amazing. I feel like a lot of things stand out to me, but the twin part is like, there's two of you.
There's two. Yeah, there's two. So my sister is an architect, and she's one of 2 Black women in the entire country that run a top firm. And so she's kind of a big deal.
Oh yeah. There will not be many places without amazing architects. So
That's true.
and only very few people have the patience to do that.
Listen, we had to play Legos growing up in between Barbie time. And I was like, can we get back to Barbies? But it was important to her. So, you know.
We all know who won that round.
Yeah, it was her.
In your childhood.
Yeah.
So I mentioned your company, Change Cadet, in your bio. And Change Cadet is a consulting firm that prepares individuals and companies to be soldiers of change in the workforce. So there can be more women and people of color at the top. The main goal of this company is to empower everyone, to have everyone feel empowered in their career. So learning more about you and preparing for this session, I feel like if you can please share with us your origin story. I know it, but I know some of these people may not know it. And and with that, I would like to ask you, after you share with us how you started, what were some of the things that prepared you for creating your company, Change Cadet?
Yeah, so origin story is always fun. Everyone wants to know how I got my superpowers. So it's not a surprise to anyone that I was discriminated against in the workplace. So discriminated for either being a woman, educated, Black woman, lots of different parts of intersectionality there. And intersectionality are the intersections of our identity. So if you think about a street and different intersections, if we're going down a street, one intersection is LGBT+, another intersection is Black, another intersection is disabled. So all the different intersections in which we have. So one particular job, I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder because of discrimination, harassment, and bullying. So I went to Thailand when I got that diagnosis. I did some eat, pray, love shit. Came back, found a new job, and I was an executive for a really big health organization. My past life, I worked in public health and healthcare as a health administrator. Just trying to make the world a better place. I still am a public health practitioner who still wants to make the world a better place, but I'm not in those traditional spaces. And so I got this job at this huge company, a healthcare company, top floor. I live here in Oakland, California. And so I had views of the bay and like free parking. And Odiaka knows, like, if you have free parking in the Bay Area, my commute was like 10 minutes. I didn't have to hop on a train. I was like, I arrived. So I really did feel like Olivia Pope because I had my power suits on. I was like an executive, helping all the executives. I was a coach for all the executives to be their best selves and to run effective teams. So in a one-on-one meeting, my white male boss, who's like in his 60s, looked at me and said, I didn't think you were that smart when I interviewed you, but you are smart. And this was a doctoral preferred position. I introduced myself as Dr. Akilah Cadet. My signature was Dr. Akilah Cadet. It was in my application. Everyone knew I had the qualifications needed for the job. And so I asked him, why would you say that? And he took a pause and he was like, I guess that's offensive. I'm sorry. I said, yes, and hurtful. It's like really hurtful because I'm thinking like I was hired to actually feel valued and appreciated. And it was a pattern that didn't happen in previous jobs, again, due to discrimination, harassment, and bullying. So I told him, I was like, hey, you know, that was hurtful and I'm going to need to take some time to like rebuild my trust with you. And so he rebuilt trust by firing me the next week. And he fired me illegally. Let's just say I got all the shoes I wanted after that. But in that position, I had a choice. Do I go back into 9-to-5 spaces that wanted me to fit in a box to make them comfortable where I could not fully be myself? Or do I take a chance to invest in myself and build my company, Change Cadet? So when I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder in the previous job, I started this company as a side hustle. So I'm not kidding. I'm a straight up hustler, like in the streets, making things happen. And so I cashed out 95% of my retirement because I knew as a Black woman, I wouldn't be able to get a loan and I didn't have a job, and started this business. And now it's been 7 years. Origin story. Okay, so the second part of the question, right, was the skills, right?
Yes. So, what are some of the things that prepared you for creating your company?
I mean, you know, I was a Girl Scout, Troop 1395, so I've always been resourceful. So I'm a Virgo. So any Virgos in the group? Hey, I see you. I appreciate you. Say here, I knew it. Yeah, we are going to hang out at St. Martin. It's going to be fun. So I'm not kidding. A Virgo is someone who's known for being a jack of all trades, or a Jane of all trades, or anyone of all trades. And that's what I am. So I was able to use a transferable skill set. And it's really important as you think about your career, you have a transferable skill set. So when I was managing millions of dollars for the statewide seatbelt safety program for California, that helps me manage all of my clients that I have, right? When I had to invoice them, I can invoice my clients. When I had to work with leaders of powerful companies, hospitals, healthcare, universities, whatever it may be, particularly folks who are empowered that tend to be heterosexual, cisgender white men. I was a preschool teacher. And being a preschool teacher is the best way to talk to guys in power. So tell me about how you feel. Maybe we should take a break, you know, and that's a transferable skill set. People wouldn't think that that's a connection, but really I still use that day to day. And so there's different parts of my career and experience, grant administration, preschool teacher, being someone who had to do talks and events or put together workshops. I do all of those things in my job now. And so when I started my company, I made sure I did things that I know I'm like amazing at. So, you know, the talks and doing things like needs assessments, which is basically, again, Virgos are good at this, judging the entire company and organization and leadership to see like, where are your opportunities? Where can we like insert here something to do to enhance, or some people may say like, you know, weaknesses, that our weaknesses are all opportunities. So what opportunities do we have to help? And so using those skill sets, I was able to not only build my own confidence, do stuff I was good at, then people were asked like, hey, do you do this other thing? And I'm like, there's this tool called Google. I'm sure I could figure it out. And then I would figure it out. And then surprisingly, be like, oh, that's like something I did in the past, or even a project I did in college, or a project I did in high school. A lot of events that I do now, I was senior class president, I was student activities president, I was prom chair, all applies, right? Of how you're bringing people in together. And so those are the skills that I use to build and continually build my business.
Thank you so much. No one talks about how difficult it is to put together a prom event. Like there's so many skills that I have personally gained. Any sort of dance, getting people to volunteer themselves, getting people to do certain things, chasing after people, budget,
you know, you're negotiating the venue price. I mean, there's like so many things that are happening there. I'm like, I was 16, 17 negotiating contracts, but it is definitely helpful. What it didn't prepare me for is when my senior prom date left me for another chick.
At that point, just wrap it all up.
Yeah, and I was like, whatever, I ran the show, people are happy. I'm not going to take you home in my limo. He had to find his own ride, so.
Too bad. Walk home.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh. Well, I thank you so much for sharing with us your origin story. And I think that it takes a certain level of strength to experience all the things that we do as Black women and be able to step up and say, I need to make this change and I need to form a way, a company, a structure, a proper one, because half the time, you know, when I think about my personal experiences too, half the time it's just rage. I'm like, I can't be the one to fix this problem, but you have found a way to step up and put yourself slightly aside for the good of other people in some ways, because you're taking on this challenge that, you know, many people of color will experience, but then you're trying to make it better for them. So I'm glad that your experiences gave you an inspiration and didn't kind of knock you down, which is because you're here and the world is a better place for it, and your company is making the world a better place. So thank you. So, but I want to know, what was the first project you worked on when you have established yourself as Change Cadet? What was the first project, if you remember?
Oh yeah, no, you remember where the money comes from. So, don't forget that. So the very first project I did was with a nonprofit that works with transitional age youth here in the Bay Area. So they needed help with kind of reorganizing their structure. They needed support for their board. And then they also needed a strategic plan. And so the funny thing is that when I went into doing my own business, so this is side hustle time when I was still collecting a check, but side hustling, I kind of just like put in the universe that I was going to start. Like I got business cards and I came up with my name, and then I was like, yeah, I'm totally going to do this. And I like got the domain name and like literally just put out my website. Didn't tell really anyone. It was just like my thoughts and intention. And someone sent me an email like, hey, and I wasn't even a doctor at that time. I was just Akilah. Hey, Akilah, do you do this? And I was like, oh, I do. Here's my website. Wow. And I was able to get like, at that time, I thought it was a lot of money. I was like $15,000. And then I was working on that project for like 9 months. I was like, oh my gosh, people are going to pay me to do this thing as a pretend doctor. And so that was the first thing I did. And it was impactful and meaningful because transitional age youth here in Oakland are focusing on BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color, around the world, or people of color. And I used to be administrator for high school programs. And it was just nice to have that connection. It's something I knew I could do confidently, and it helped me build my muscle for like the next project that came in.
Great. That was also because I was then wondering, you know, like a lot of people, especially given the pandemic, a lot of people took time to reflect on businesses that they wanted to start as well. But starting one and then doing your first project doesn't always mean that you're going to stay with it. But you just answered that question by saying, you know, that gave you the confidence to keep going. So I'm glad.
Oh, I mean, now I've been an assistant director on a like a film project I put together. I produce film projects. I do storytelling projects. No experience whatsoever, you know, but I have the confidence to say like, I could probably figure this out. You know, I could probably get some money to put together this film project. And it's fun, you know?
Yes, of course. I did see some of the things you did. So that's why I'm like, yes, I know it's fun. So in addition to that, so Change Cadet is set on doing many things to dismantle white supremacy. And I've, you know, read on your website, looked at your team. A lot of them are people of color. Given that white supremacy affects many facets of their lives, how do you create a safe space for your team to heal and grow as you're working through the many things that your organization is doing?
Totally. So I only have people who identify as women on my team. It's by accident, but they're the ones who, you know, like a good amount of hustle and want to like support and create change. And, you know, naturally, it's unfortunate, but women have this like self-care, caretaking thing. So it's good for us to have that. I have a white woman on my team. I want to be transparent about that. I know white people, you know, I have white friends. But my chief strategy officer, her name is Lauren. She's my favorite white person. But it's important to note that I am open to anyone on my team, but there are times where even as Dr. Akilah Cadet with million and billion dollar companies that we may work with, they will not listen to me, but they will listen to Lauren, the person who doesn't run the company. And so we have a wonderful relationship and we can support one another. And then to answer your question, I cannot create a safe space for anyone. All I can do is create a supportive space. So what can I do to support the people on my team? What can they do to support me on my team? And we can have a reciprocal relationship. Safety is specific to the person. And I can't determine what's safe for you, Marvelous. You can't determine what's safe for me, because then we're going to make assumptions and potentially cause harm. But I can tell you what I need to be supported, and you can tell me what you need to be supported. And in turn, you may feel some safety as a result of that. And so we have created an environment where we literally do what we ask our clients to do. And that is with what we call ACT. We all have to act every day. And that stands for accountability, communication, and transparency. How are we holding ourselves accountable? How do we communicate our needs to each other? And how are we transparent about what's working well, what's not working well? And again, our needs. And not only do we use that for our team, but it's also a wonderful way for people to work on organizational change and cultural change and making sure that we're role modeling the behavior that everyone needs to have. So that's what we do. Plus, we have a 4-day work week. We have unlimited vacation. We have a very flexible schedule. Everyone gets paid very well. And all of that is important. We take every single holiday, like every single holiday we are off, and then we shut down multiple weeks throughout the year because this work is hard and you're not going to see us.
I am immediately updating my LinkedIn profile to make sure that I have alerts for when you're hired. P.S. If you work for my company, don't say no, but I 100% agree. I think the most things anyone can ask for is support. And, it's one thing I've learned. I think it's something that a lot of people, it leads to a lot of the issues that we have in our companies when we're trying to create an environment for people, and then we just assume what they want and we run with it. And even after multiple feedback sessions, people just say, this is what we've created and this is what we're going to work with. So I'm glad that you responded by saying, your job is to understand what people need to be supported in their safe space. And I could not totally agree. I could not have agreed with you, but
oh, I got it. It came out.
All right, the words. I'm going to take a question from one of our audience members. Anita has a question about someone who motivates you, your role model. Anita, you can share with us if you're still here.
Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Hey, Anita.
Yeah. Hey. I just wonder if you have a person that you look up to or who motivates you in this sphere or generally in life.
Yeah. First of all, really love glasses. Very cool.
Thank you.
Beyoncé Giselle Knowles Carter motivates me for many reasons. And yes, the music's great. Thank you for Renaissance. I really needed it. The world did. And she keeps giving us gifts, which is fantastic. But so Beyoncé and I are a year and 2 days apart. So she's a year and 2 days older than me. So we've been in this friendly competition, which I really enjoyed. Some may say Beyonce's winning, but I feel like I am too. But the reason why I like her is because of her work ethic. Virgos are special people, as Sahar knows, and her work ethic is insane. If you see any Virgo memes that say Virgos are the director, assistant director, producer, executive producer, we wear many hats. And I think she does that really well. It makes me feel valued and seen with what I do. But more importantly, she uses her platform to really be an unapologetic Black woman, which is what I do. And it's really, really hard when you are at that level to be your true authentic self and give none of the fucks. And that's what she does. And I think that is incredibly powerful. And then the way she does her business deals, right now there's a new Tiffany ad that's out. In order for the Tiffany ad to happen, not only did she get paid, her husband got paid, but millions of dollars went to HBCUs, right? And so she uses her platform to create change. She was the first Black woman performer at Coachella, which is so stupid in so many ways because it's music and whatever. But I was there weekend one, which I was very proud of. Yes, it was great. But when the show started, I was like, this is for me, a Black person, a Black woman. And when she sang Lift Every Voice and Sing, people were like, what new song is this? And I'm like, this is our history. This is not for you. It is for us. But the reason why I bring that up is the increase of Black students going and applying to HBCUs, so historically Black colleges and universities, went up because of that performance. Then scholarships were created because of that performance. And so she's the epitome of using her power and privilege for good. And so I do all of this work because trust me, you made a comment earlier that I give a little bit of myself to do this work. I give my whole self. I don't half-ass this, it's my full ass, isn't it? And so I do it because at some point I just hope to work with Beyonce. And then when I do that, I'm just going to retire and then I'll just be a regular ass person and not dismantle white supremacy anymore. But that's who inspires me, Anita. Wonderful question.
Thank you. That's a really great answer. I love it. I will definitely look up into her work a little bit more.
Please do. Yeah.
Definitely. You would have retired, but then be that person who did work with Beyonce. So add that comma to your...
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. If it hasn't come across, I like money, so I will still collect checks. It'll just be in a different way.
Do you know what Beyonce looks like? You know what she smells like? Here we go. I was there. I stood with her.
It's gonna be great. I'm a twin. She has twins. We're Virgos. It's gonna happen. And
it's gonna happen. But thank you so much for sharing. And thank you, Anita, for your question. But I would like to know, when did you realize that the work you were doing was fulfilling enough and you wanted to stick with it?
So this is a very interesting question because I'm a transparent person, accountability, communication, transparency. There are many days where this work is not fulfilling at all. And it's exhausting. So when I say I dismantle white supremacy, that means that I want what white people have, right? So if you think about white supremacy, it's not actually a bad thing. Plot twist, gaffes. Why would I say that? Well, do we have racists and Proud Boys? And yes, all of those things are true and real. But white supremacy is a system that sets a person up for success. All the social determinants of health are what they need to thrive and live their most successful life. So what that looks like is a white person in the US can drive down the street and get pulled over and get a speeding ticket, or nothing, and just drive off, right? White supremacy looks like a white person going to the emergency room and their pain being bleeped. White supremacy is being seen in a line and offered help at a hotel or cafe. White supremacy is being able to get a job without having all the experience that you need to get the job, right? So there's things that set certain people up for success. Because if I were going to insert a Black person, we know if they got pulled over by cops, it could be, arrest, maiming, or end of life. As a Black disabled woman, I go to the ER all the time. My pain is never bleed. They always think I'm some type of drug seeker. Because of stereotypes, right, that are there. And if I'm in line at a cafe, I cannot tell you the countless amount of times that white people just cut in front of me because they feel they don't have to wait in line, right? And so when we talk about dismantling white supremacy, it's everyone getting that same type of treatment. And so I am literally dismantling something that I didn't create. I didn't create white supremacy. It's not my thing. I'm not, I don't have that benefit. White supremacy means white people are viewed better as have a better opportunity than anyone else who's not white. And so the problem they created, I'm fixing because I've made a choice that maybe if I can kind of fix it, like you said, make the world a little bit of a better place, then it could result into something that motivates me to do this work. I'm inspired to do this work, or someone else's life or work experience or day, right, can be better. So there are many days where I'm like, I don't want to do this. This is not my problem. Why am I doing this? Why am I so good at this? Why am I like a white woman whisperer? Why am I someone who would go in and solve all these problems? I don't want it. I don't want it. And if I could have any other way, if I could just be an A&R executive or, have a fashion label, I would do that. But unfortunately, this is my calling. So I'm doing it and I'm leaning into it. But the moments of inspiration come when someone says, you inspire me to be brave. You inspire me to use my voice. I didn't realize that I was upholding values of white supremacy. I'm a leader at my company, so I've decided to do X, Y, and Z to be more inclusive. I didn't know people with disabilities could look like you. And so now I'm much more open when, to not judge folks. And those things are pretty great, to have, but it's a lot of weight to carry when you inspire someone because they're always looking to be inspired. And I'm never trying to inspire anyone. I'm just 100% myself. And if that's the end result, cool. But it doesn't come without days where it's just too much.
Of course, I definitely agree. I think I that last comment you made about when you inspire someone and then now everyone's looking to you for all the answers and looking to you to guide them. And it's just, there's some days where you're just like, I've given all the answers I possibly have. The rest.
I don't know, don't be racist. Don't be xenophobic.
Right. How else can I say this?
Yeah. Sometimes it's just like, Google it. Just Google it, circle back. Here we can have a conversation. But yeah, I mean, it's the path I've chosen. So, I do it.
And I'm grateful for people like you. Like I said, starting this session, I found myself in places where people have invited me to a panel, invited me to some discussion, and it's always centered around things relating to race or how to eradicate, white supremacy in some way. Like St. Olaf is a predominantly white institution, so tons of conversations around that. And I was just like, it's not my responsibility to do this. I feel like it's a huge responsibility. I feel like this is not taking into account how it affects me moving forward. And I feel like it's also Google. Something out there can help you that is not me. So I'm glad that I'm glad you're here, because you are taking one for many of us on the team that have been in these situations. And I'm glad that people continue to feel inspired by your work and inspired to make that change in their lives, because you are starting a ripple effect. And when they move on from whatever company that they're at, they will still have this in mind moving forward. Like I have no, how will I put this? Because disabilities in America is very like strict. I have no medically recognized disabilities, but
I'm not
so,
disabled.
right, exactly. I'm not disabled. So having to work to create conversations around disability in many classes that I'm in, it's like what people said to you, oh, I didn't know a disabled person can look like this. It sounds jarring to me when I hear it, but I have to, be like, okay, thank you for sharing that, and moving forward, here are the things that I've learned in the classes that I've been to. So I'm glad that people are taking your words and they are moving forward with it, and they're also making changes in their lives, because it would be difficult if one person has to continue circling back to the same thing over and over again. I have another question from one of our listeners. Jazzy, your question is about imagination and making change with that. So you can share with us.
Hey, Jazzy.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jazzy. I'm calling in from the United States. And as an artist and storyteller, I believe that imagination is one of our most powerful tools. So I would like to know, what kind of world are you imagining and envisioning as you are working in your spaces of transformative justice and diversity, equity, and inclusion?
So this is always a hard question for me, because I'm someone who is in the moment, and I have to think about what I can control in the moment because of the work that I do. And so it's more so, how can people show up right now and moving forward? So just a preface, but if I had the space and place to imagine a wonderful world, it would be a place where everyone is valued for who they are and not questioned for their intersectionality, and not in a position where systems benefit one from another. So if we're going to go on a little imaginative journey, because I'm also a storyteller, I would wake up in pain. I know this doesn't sound exciting, but with my disability, my joints are in a lot of pain. They dislocate. I have a spinal disability, so I'm always constantly in pain, and then my body thinks it's having a heart attack every day. And so I live with the symptoms of a heart attack. So shortness of breath, pain in my chest, weakness in my left arm. So I would wake up in pain. I would go to the emergency room and my pain would be relieved. I would immediately go to the cardiac wing, be evaluated overnight, and given all the care and concern, support that I needed to control my pain. And then to, I personally would like half naked men to not only escort me home, but then take care of me for like a week, so I wouldn't have to lift a finger. But I bring that up because I think it's really important for BIPOC people, for Black people, to think about a place where they are seen, they're valued, they're heard, and they don't have to be in this position of fight or flight or self-advocacy or advocacy for anyone else in their group. They could just be. And so if I'm imagining a world, I would be a soft Black woman. I wouldn't be a strong Black woman. I don't want to be a strong Black woman. I hate when people call me a strong Black woman. That's not the plan I want. But I would want to have all the softness and support I need to thrive, so I would no longer have to fight for my existence. Oh,
Thank you so much. I love the response and how it was just rooted in, like, it was so honest, because I love asking this question to people when I first meet them, and just, having an opportunity to really just give us a chance to imagine something different for ourselves. So thank you so much for your response.
Yeah, and there's a lot of power in, thought. right? And I mentioned that earlier, like I was putting out in the universe that I was going to start this business, which is why I'm going to work with Beyonce. Like, you know, I can see those things, and I think that helps with how we're showing up day to day, and can provide a little bit of respite for some of us who have more points of intersectionality. Thanks, Jazzy.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Jazzy. I love that response you gave. I think someone asked me this question once, like I don't know what it was related to, but I remember my answer being, I hate the word resilient. I absolutely hate the word resilient because I don't want to be resilient. They just attach that name to in many factors of my life. It's like, oh, you must be resilient, or we thank you for your resilience. Don't thank me for my resilience. There is something that is enabling that need for me to be resilient, and I need you to change that so I don't have to always be resilient. So just like you said, I don't want to be strong. I don't want to be strong.
I don't want to persevere. I don't do any of that shit. I don't want it at all. Like I don't want it. I have swag. So this is my sweater, and I'm sweaters and hoodies and shirts, and the shirt that's coming out this month. So this month is National Disability Employment Awareness Month in US. And so the shirt that I have coming out is my existence is resistance. Because it is hard to survive with so many different things. So whether you are a BIPOC person or from the LGBTQ plus community or disabled or whatever, you are in some type of othering group where you feel like you don't belong in the space that you're in, we have this, you know, this thing that we're constantly going through. And so just to remind people that, you know, your presence is all that's needed, and you shouldn't feel like you have to come in and do this perseverance or resistant or be strong and like all of these things. We shouldn't have to do that, because there's many white people who didn't have to persevere to make it through their PWI, because they're PWI primarily white institution, because they are part of the dominant culture. But you had to persevere. You had to advocate. You had to say, don't touch my hair. You had to ask questions about how long did it take? You know, like all of these things while just trying to get your degree.
Just trying to trying to get through the day. And you never know what's going to come your way. Yes, that my existence is a resistance is the perfect way to just wake up and look at that and be like, this should be my mantra moving forward for today.
Yeah, my shirts are only mantras, but
and we love that. And people look at you that like when you're walking down the street and you forget you have a shirt with something on it, and people like are staring at you and you're like, why is everyone staring at me? You're like, oh, that.
My love language is dismantling white supremacy. I always forget when I have that shirt on, because people stop. And then people who don't like it, they're just like,
and immediately like move your eyes.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, I have another question for you. What does curiosity mean to you, and how can someone follow their curiosity?
That's a really good question. So for me, it's learning and unlearning, right? How are you constantly in a position of learning and unlearning? How do you make sure you know that whatever is right and true right now may not be in the future, right? So there was a time where in the US, we would say people of color. We don't say that anymore. We say Black, Indigenous people of color for the unique experiences of Black people and enslavement in this country, and Indigenous people and various versions of genocide. Right? And it encompasses all people of color, but it's talking about the structural and systemic problems that are there that are very unique and put people in a different position. And so if we're in a position to constantly learn and unlearn, then we can like make the world a better place, as cheesy as that sounds. We can stay curious because we're learning about other people. When we unlearn, so learning is easy, and a lot of you are in school, new to school, around school. So learning, you're like, ugh, books, and that's what I've had to do. You got it down. But the unlearning is hard, because if a parent, caregiver, guardian told you this is how it was, or this is how these people are, or that's how they operate, or this religion does that, you have to unlearn those things when you realize that that may have been perpetuating hate or harm. Mm-hmm. Right? In order to learn about intersectionality for ourselves and for other people, we have to unlearn things. So when I lived in Sacramento, I was Black because I am. But as soon as I moved out to the Bay Area and went to school in San Francisco, people are like, what are you? I'm like, I'm Black. They're like, no, you can't be Black. I'm like, no, okay, but I am Black. No, you have to be something. I'm like, but I'm Black. But it was because of my complexion. But I took it as an opportunity to start to say things that I couldn't say in Sacramento, which is I'm Haitian. My mom is French and Black. I'm like super voodoo because my mom's family's from Louisiana. My dad is from, Haiti, that I'm a first generation kid. So I was able to unlearn things myself, which in turn made me be more open to learning about more things in my culture, or learn about other people, or really get excited when I meet a Caribbean person, because I love Caribbean people and I'm very biased to Caribbean people because we have so many things in common, Sahar. Yeah, and it's great. We have a curry, we have a dish, we have a dance, we have it all. And it's great, right, to have that. And so in order to stay curious, which also helps you minimize bias and not judge or make assumptions of people, you're in positions of learning and unlearning, knowing that everyone, even if they maybe a twin who's Haitian like me, they may not have the same life or identity as me. Okay, I'm gonna wait. Oh, I was gonna share the shirt with you, but I can't share. I'm gonna give you a preview, but Sahar, if you allow me to share, I will show you the shirt. Okay. Dun dun dun. Whenever I can do that. Ah. No, I can't do it. But go, next question. Okay. Oh, 1 second. Dramatic pause.
Is it a share screen?
Yes, here you go. Can
Okay,
you see it? I have so many tabs. Can you see the shirt? What's happening?
Oh yeah.
So my existence is resistance. That's the shirt. So it's debuting next week, but sneak peek.
We love it. And the sun was just in cooperation with you at that time.
Yeah. So the other thing I didn't say is I'm actually a photographer, but I don't. A lot of people don't know that. So that's what I do to like find joy. I will take pictures. So and model.
Oh yeah, I did know that. I was trying to like put together, the bio, and I was like, there's so many things I'm leaving out. You're also a sensitivity editor. Do you want to tell us what that means? What that means?
Yeah, and I'm also a stylist, so I like style shoots and people. I'm a sensitivity editor. So what that means is authors and publishers. So books that have some type of book deal, I read them and edit them to make sure they're inclusive. And so to make sure that there's voices and language that represent LGBTQ plus, disabled, BIPOC people. So historically excluded groups, not intentionally, not underrepresented, but historically excluded or intentionally ignored, meaning that it's the system and not us. That's the problem. And so I read the book, I provide notes. It can come down to a description of something. I do it primarily for white authors, but I also do it for BIPOC authors too. So some terms can be understood in larger groups. And it's a very interesting thing because there's a lot of bias that can come up in writing.
Oh yeah.
And now a lot of authors, particularly white authors, want to make sure they aren't causing harm with their words, which I think is really powerful. And so, yeah, I'm actually editing. I'm gonna start editing a book tomorrow. So I have 5 days to edit.
Crunch time.
Yeah.
No, I really like that because the person, you were recently on a podcast interview, and she had a book about having financial stability or growth, something relating to that. And I was like, I know, is that the and I was like, this is very amazing to have somebody like a sensitivity editor, because white people may not just understand, like when you write like advice, and some of these books have advice columns in them, and it's like, drop your resume here or something, I don't know, something that just seems very possible for a white person, but will probably 100% not be very easy for a Black person or BIPOC people in general. So I applaud you for, I think it's just something amazing about you. You just tend to like do things and be like, oh, I like it, I'm gonna stick with it.
I keep being amazing.
Right. Like it's a breath of fresh air, because in life we're told to, pick this job, pick this career path and stick to it. But if something else brings you joy, why not try it? and see.
Well, so remember, in the beginning, I said that, you know, in these 9 to 5 spaces, I had to fit into a box. But I'm not someone who's supposed to be in a box. A box is limiting. A box means I have to uphold values of white supremacy. I have to sacrifice who I am for their comfort. I'm not the one for that. And so I purposely created a company where I can do all the things. So yes, we do strategic planning and coaching, and we do diversity work and needs assessments and surveys, workshops. We do all those things, but I have a whole line item that's just creative projects. So that's where I produce films. I'm doing a book tour right now for a client. So we're going on tour for his book. I style, I model, I obviously write, I'm an author. So I have no limitations to myself, because it's within those limitations where I'm making other people comfortable.
Mhm.
I want to be comfortable in a world that doesn't want me. And so I do what brings me joy.
And I'm very inspired by that, because I think, and many people in here might probably agree with me as well, by saying, you know, there's always that fear of like, you know, if this doesn't go well, then that's it. I'm done for, and I have to, it'll be so much to pick myself up again. But you know, it could go well. It could be something that you're interested in. It could be something that you like and want to stick with, and you just have to start it or try it. And if you don't like it, then that's
don't
okay.
try anything. Don't try anything, because trying is a waste of time. Just do it.
Just do it, right?
Yeah. Because when you do the thing, then you're like, ooh, I don't like any of this. Guess what? You don't have to do it. Or I do like it. I can do more of it, right? When we say try, we are already giving ourselves permission to not do something, to not follow through.
Mhm.
Right. So I don't try anything.
Oh, so absolutely half-ass it and be like, well, I tried.
Right. And they're like, but I want to try food. Taste the food. Taste it. Right. Because you be in the moment and experience the food. You don't like it, you don't have to eat it. If you do, you can eat more of it.
Oh yeah. I have another question for you. What are some of your daily rituals and practices that ground you?
What is that? What is grounding? I'm kidding. My dog walks me twice a day. So I do that. I always do something to celebrate myself, because again, I do all this like in chronic pain. And so I will have a mini brownie, a mini cupcake, a Capri Sun at the end of the day, fruit by the foot, just a little something like, you did it. And then other days I may buy jewelry. Depends on what's happening. But those are ways in which I kind of, like, my grounding is different, because I can die any day. I live with the risk of death. So because I have this heart condition, I can have a heart attack and die at any moment in time. And so when I ground myself, it's like, you made it through another day. So if it's just saying that, or my mantra, keeping amazing, or buying jewelry, or having something sweet, that's what I do. So, and that's also why I'm really more in the moment, because my days are numbered with either my progressive disability or being able to go at any moment in time. And I know that's not the same for everyone, but that's why I am my true authentic self, because if I'm going to go when people are like, she's a badass bitch, she changed the world and she inspired me and that was amazing and great, I will miss her. And then, you know, maybe there'll be a little mural somewhere. That would be cool. But, you know, so that's what I do. I stay in the moment, and that helps me stay grounded.
I love that. I remember reading, you had an interview recently, and they were asking, you know, how you celebrate your success. And I think you were saying like, you're not very good at doing that. And then you only do the small, the little ones.
Yeah, I only do the small things. I mean, I purchased mini rings, but I do that to celebrate milestones. But yeah, I mean, as a Virgo, we naturally don't do a good job of taking care of ourselves. We're really good at taking care of other people. Mm-hmm. And so over the past couple of years, I've been disabled for 5 years. I just celebrated my anniversary this past August. I've had to be more intentional about doing things for myself and celebrating myself. And so I'm making progress, little steps there.
Small, little by little. And I think that's amazing. I mean, I guess, like, obviously for you with your condition, it's in your back of your head at every time, you know, how how you have to live your days and very intentionally, but that's the same for everybody. It's like, you never know what's going to happen as you walk out the door.
That's true. But we think about white supremacy, we think about privilege. People don't think that, right? So at any moment in time, anyone can become disabled, whether it's temporary or permanently, but people don't think that because the way society views people with disabilities, that it's sad and I feel sorry for them and I wouldn't want that to be my life. But I'm over here living my best life. Like I head to Hawaii tomorrow to work on my book and edit this other book. And I'll be at the airport with my cane and people will be looking at me, but my ass is sitting down in first class because I work hard. And if you're going to judge me and all my cuteness, my cute little outfit, cool, that's fine. But I'm still able to find joy, have a lot of pride in being disabled. And so I feel like if the image changed, if we're thinking about Jazzy's question and like imagining the space for the image change where being disabled wasn't viewed as a negative thing or an end of life thing, then people would have more compassion for me, knowing that it can happen to them at any moment in time. 5 years ago, I wasn't disabled. Now I am, right? And so I've had to, adjust to that. And also that's why I talk a lot about my disability, because I don't look disabled to folks.
Yes.
Especially when I don't have a cane. They're just like, why is she asking for assistance? Or whose ADA placard is she using to park?
Right.
Mine, because it's going to be really slow for me to get in and out of this car. But yeah.
Step away. Well, so if it's okay with you, can we talk about your community? How has your personal community helped you continue to live a purpose-driven life?
People are motivated and inspired by my work, including those, that are in my community circle. And so that does drive me to keep going. But I think it's, again, accountability, communication, transparency. When you have any little bit of fame or you're a founder, CEO, your circle becomes very, very small because people want to have access to you or what you have or who you may know. And so my circle is very, very tiny. And so my little crew is there for me. And I use them in different ways to get the support that I need. The friend who's afar, it's like the video chat. The one who's here, it's like, can you help me lift some things or move some stuff around? Like I use my small group in a way to make sure I'm supported with what I need. And also in a position of acceptance that I don't have as many people as I would like, because I have to make sure I keep authentic, relationships around me.
Thank you. There's another question from the audience. How can we lead with diversity, equity, and inclusion in mind in our day-to-day?
Well, it's very simple. All you do is you get up, you brush your teeth, you put on your deodorant, and you check your bias and you check your privilege. So you do every day, right? How am I showing up to the space? Am I coming in here like I'm the boss and everyone needs to serve me? Or I'm like, oh, you know what? I have a lot of privilege in the space because I have a title, or I'm the most senior, or I am a person who identifies a man in a primarily group of people who identify as women, or maybe I'm, a white person or a white guy, and realizing that power that comes with that privilege. And so as we move in our spaces and places throughout the day, how are we showing up in ways that I'm not like necessarily silencing other people or ignoring other people, or maybe as a BIPOC person realizing that I don't have to be silent, I can use my voice. We're in a post-murder George Floyd worlds because people are protesting around the world. And so people are looking for more accountability, more vocalization of what is needed, what is needed for things to be as equal as they can be or head into that direction. So you basically want to do that.
I appreciate that you said that, because I think even when you are part of minority groups, it's difficult for you to sometimes see like the ways in which you're privileged or the ways in which you may have bias. So like me, you. So I think this is a practice for everybody. Everybody can take this moving forward, because there's...
I do it too. Let's colorism. Let's get into it. We have different complexions, right? There's people who feel more comfortable talking to me than talking to you, Marvelous, which is dumb AF, right? But that's because of white supremacy, colorism, who you see. If you see more Beyoncé's, like Beyoncé's out there, then you're going to be like, that's what I feel more comfortable with, right? And so it's really important to be mindful of the privilege you have as BIPOC people. I am Black, but I'm also a CEO. I'm also an author. I run a business. I know that certain people are going to fawn after me in other spaces. So I can really make some decisions to change a space, place, time, or experience for anyone, a person or a group. And we have to be mindful of those things. I'm a homeowner, which is a big deal because I do live in Oakland. I was able to buy a home last year, but that changes things immensely because now I'm part of a different group of home ownership where some other people can't be part of that group. So I can teach people how to buy a home, right? And so it's within the privilege that we have where we can advocate for ourselves, advocate for other people, support ourselves, and use the skills and resources we have or ask for help if we don't know how to do it.
Amazing. Now I have my final question for you. If you could give one piece of advice to your 18-year-old self, what would it be?
What's I doing at 18? That's a wonderful question. Is my sophomore year of college. I started college at 17. Wow. So my advice would be, you keep wearing your hair naturally curly and you embrace your curls. Because embracing your curls will be the pathway of how you get to blonde braids. Now, this may not make sense to some folks, but as a Black woman, we're constantly told to straighten our hair to be valued and accepted in the workplace. And when I left Sacramento, which is my hometown, to come out here, I didn't have a hairdresser. Like, I just couldn't figure it out whatsoever. So I started wearing my hair naturally curly. I didn't even know my hair was naturally curly because it was always flat iron. Actually, I'm 40. So it was a hot comb before flat irons were invented. It was a whole process. And so as Black women, we're constantly thinking about our hair and how if we can make it flatter or straighter or put it all the way back in a bun, that we will have more acceptance in spaces, particularly in the workspace. And so I remember when I wanted to go into starting this business, the night before I found like an African hair braider and I got like a 6:30 a.m. spot and I got my hair braided and I went into the environment that was harassing and bullying me and I was like, you're going to get this. You're going to get braids. You're going to get all these natural curls. You're going to get big hair. And that was really, really empowering for me to do that because I was able to be my true authentic self with my hair. I didn't have to sit there and like brush it back or flat iron it or whatever to go into the workplace. So I would tell my 18-year-old self who was trying to figure out her curl pattern and people were making fun of her and saying she had a Jerry curl to keep doing it because fast forward, she'd be me on the Forbes list with curly hair.
An absolute badass. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today, Akilah. I am so appreciative of everything you shared with us. Thank you to everybody who has tuned in. Please don't forget the survey in the chat and to show your appreciation for Akilah taking her time out today. And I hope you all have an amazing day. And thank you so much once again, Akilah.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Odiaka, Sahir, Kendall, and Marvelous. This was absolutely wonderful. Thank you, all of you who are listening and today. And always remember to keep being amazing.
Amazing.